Cat Tales 34. According to the vet, our 3-year-old cat, Jazzy, is obsessive-compulsive. She chews the end of her tail until it looks like a fountain pen dipped in an inkwell. She bats her grayish-brown paws at strangers and attacks their knees and ankles. Jazzy is more guard dog than cat. Rather than hide under the bed when friends call, she waits at the front window, a mini tiger with tabby stripes and green eyes and claws out. Recently, a painter knocked at our door. Jazzy flung herself at him, hissing and spitting like Taz from the Bugs Bunny cartoon. When I tried to intervene, she hissed and spat at me, too, her eyes black and dilated. Embarrassed and unnerved, I apologized and shooed Jazzy upstairs with a pillow. A little while later, before starting to work, the painter glanced around nervously and asked, "Where's that cat?" Jazzy has thrown fits at a handyman, a mover, and several friends of our 13-year-old daughter, Juliana. In a strange reversal, our cat is affectionate with us, her adoptive family, except in those instances when she feels threatened at seeing an unfamiliar face. She cuddles on our beds and is a fixture on my desk. She's friendly with our regular pet sitter and the girl's mother. She eats well and uses her litter box. She's trim and active, almost the perfect cat, except for those sporadic, unpredictable attacks. That is why we've put her on meds. Jazzy is now part of the new Prozac pet nation, dogs, cats, and even horses on anti-anxiety drugs. Our vet prescribed amitriptyline, generic for Elavil, starting with 5 milligrams a day, which Jazzy took for a month. Each day we watched for signs of change, relief from her obsessive-compulsive symptoms. We praised our cat and petted her even more. To our disappointment, over that month Jazzy remained hissy at strangers and continued to gnaw on her tail. The vet doubled the prescription of amitriptyline to 10 milligrams. Now we wait for more positive changes. It wasn't always like this. The beginning, like all love stories, began with hope and a dream. For years, Juliana begged us for a cat. William and first put it off. Our condo was too small. I didn't want to trip over a litter box in the kitchen or leave a sandy mess in a bathroom or near the front door. Cat box odor was the deal breaker. Finally, we cleaned out the tiny laundry room and made a space there, planning to surprise Juliana with a kitten on her 10th birthday. For weeks we examined, held, and petted dozens of potential pets at shelters, adoption clinics, and at homes of friends who owned mother cats with new litters. William suggested a gray female tabby. "They make good lap cats," he said. "The ones I've seen are pretty gentle." Our future pet had hefty competition, a legacy to endure. When I was 12, my family adopted a docile gray and white kitten my father named Pootie after the cherubs in Renaissance paintings. William previously owned a cat, Sweet Pea, who lived up to her name. We both kept a lookout for a gray female tabby, but to be thorough, we considered other cats too. A pair of black male kittens, too wild. Older cats at an adoption clinic, health issues. Shelter kittens that turned out to be feral. After a month-long search, we found what we thought was the perfect kitten, an 8-week-old Torby, a tortoiseshell and tabby mix, in a cage at a local humane society. Alert and friendly, she had white markings and an adorable half-orange, half-gray face. The kitten's distinctive feature was a pair of ears almost as large as her frame. A shelter worker handed William the tiny fur ball, who had been found on the street with her mother, a small gray cat. He held the kitten and played with her. By now, after an exhausting search, there was no surprise left for Juliana, only anticipation. "I want this kitten," Juliana said. So did we. We named her Gem Jelly Jazzlica after the characters in the musical Cats. Jazzy for short. Little did we know how well the name suited her. At home, after a minor intestinal bug for which Jazzy was prescribed antibiotics, she became bold and fearless. She scaled furniture, arms, and legs, and pranced around the house with an arched back, her tail fuzzed out like a Halloween cat. We thought she'd outgrow her aggressive, kittenish tendencies. Over time, though, Jazzy's precociousness turned into anxiety. The sound of the doorbell made her put up her claws. For a while I thought our home of 13 years was the problem. "She's too cooped up in this little condo," I said. "There are no sun patches for her to lie in. She's climbing the blinds to get to the light." William agreed, but moving to a bigger house wasn't in our budget at that time. Letting Jazzy outdoors where she could expend her abundant energy was not an option either. We lived at the edge of a canyon where coyotes roamed and could be spotted at dawn on our street. When Jazzy was a year old, we moved to a larger home a few blocks away that had windows and sun patches galore. Jazzy will be happy here, I thought. She was, for a while. When the novelty wore off, she became feisty again and suspicious of guests, especially men in workmen's boots. She started to chew her tail. Maybe a man in boots frightened her when she was on the street, I told William. Or the unthinkable. I lowered my voice. Maybe a man in boots did away with the rest of her litter. Maybe, William said. I had read in a cat care book that kittens who aren't handled during the first weeks of life might not respond well to humans. We'll never know. One thing is certain, Jazzy is a survivor, and that gave me comfort. My quirky, scrappy cat had had a difficult childhood. She was doing the best she could. I, too, have obsessive perfectionist tendencies. I wondered whether I had inflicted them on Jazzy, had scrubbed the bathroom sinks with a little too much vigor. Over time, I began to cringe when the doorbell rang. I'd place Jazzy on a plant shelf so she'd be at eye level and wouldn't feel threatened at seeing a stranger. I asked visitors to hang back and not pet her. If she seemed agreeable, I advised them to approach her cautiously. During parties, I locked Jazzy in our bedroom. I started to fantasize about dogs, envisioning a cute little Pomeranian who'd lick a guest's hand. But I knew Jazzy wouldn't tolerate a dog. Get a big dog, my friend Barbara suggested. Jazzy might not fight if the pooch is bigger than her. Fighting, flying fur. I was in over my head. I briefly considered giving Jazzy up for adoption, but feared she might fall into the hands of a less tolerant owner. An antisocial pet might wind up being euthanized. I started to fantasize about, gulp, pet owner guilt trip, the day Jazzy would be gone, of natural causes, and I could adopt another, friendlier pet. How long do you think Jazzy might live? I asked William. She's a healthy cat, he said, at least another 10 years. 10 more years of bad behavior, 10 years of waiting. The stress on Jazzy's nervous system could not be good either. I had to do something. I read a newspaper article about pets on meds, a dog being treated for separation anxiety that barked and tore up his owner's home when they were away, and a cat with some unspecified emotional problem that suddenly began to claw her owner. On a pet website I read a letter to a vet from a man who sounded like me. He wrote that his good-natured cat freaked out when guests came over and that he was at his wits' end about the bad behavior. When I expressed my ambivalence about drugging my cat to Barbara, she said, "Do you want to live like this for another 10 years? As if I had a disease. Maybe I did. Maybe I was codependent, a cat enabler, encouraging antisocial behavior. I envisioned the day when neighbors would refuse an invitation to lunch, make excuses when invited to a dinner party. I would be shunned, a refugee hunkered at home with a vicious pet. That same morning I called our vet, who, after I described Jazzy's behavior in an office visit the year before, had suggested Prozac. I had laughed 4 years ago when my cousin Debbie told me her poodle was on Prozac. I wasn't laughing anymore. How will I get her to eat the pill? I asked. Grind up the medication in her food, he said, or put the pill inside a piece of cheese. I tried stuffing the blue pill into a ball of cheese and then tuna. She ate the cheese and the tuna, but spit out the pill, intact, both times. I ground up the pill and mixed it into gourmet cat food, and after that into a small piece of shredded chicken. Each time, Jazzy ate the glob with the hidden medication once and never again. I called the vet again. Open Jazzy's jaws and drop the pill down her throat, the receptionist said. I pictured bared fangs. I imagined bloody scratches. Surprisingly, Jazzy allowed me to dose her this way. Every morning before breakfast I open her jaw and drop the pill down her throat. After, I offer a cat treat. So far, so good. But I worry the meds will turn Jazzy into a listless slug, that the spark in her personality might vanish. Already she seems to have less interest in playing with her favorite catnip-filled mouse. It's a compromise, William said. What can we do? Jazzy will need to undergo yearly blood tests, as amitriptyline might affect her liver enzymes, though research says the drug does not usually have long-term negative side effects on cats. With new habits and positive social interactions, our cat might even be able to discontinue taking the medication. Will Jazzy become less obsessive-compulsive? The drug's effectiveness is not guaranteed. Our cat chews her tail less now, occasionally rather than every day. She may never be a pootie or a sweet pea, maybe the bar was set too high. I hope she will be able to tolerate houseguests and handymen. I don't expect her to purr and rub on strangers' legs, just to sit calmly on the couch or a lap. I asked the vet what would happen if Jazzy didn't respond to amitriptyline. We can try a combination of drugs, he said, including Prozac. Whether it's that medication or another one, I want to fall in love with my cat again, like that first day at the shelter. I want to get back that dream. Behind Jazzy's bad behavior is a sweet, unspoiled kitten. Last week, Jazzy hissed at a neighbor who knocked at our door. Yesterday, when a friend of Juliana's came over after school, our cat eyed the girl but sat quietly as she passed by. For me, this is progress. Our cat's anxiety disorder has created a cockeyed silver lining in all the drama, drawing William, Juliana, and First closer together as we joke and strategize about how to help our nerve-ridden cat. We are on day 26, and counting, of Jazzy's new dose of meds. What I did for love, I'd do again.